I always love getting to work on stuff that belongs to my friends. This is a Headrush MX5 guitar effects modeler that belongs to my bandmate Carl. And we've been playing some shows recently, and he says the power jack is loose, so whenever there's a lot of movement on stage, which, trust me, there is, the unit turns off and turns back on. So we're suspecting a loose jack here in the back. So there's a power button. It looks like it's missing a cover actually. But he gave me the power supply and I'm going to put it in. And I mean, it's visibly, I mean, that's like not even in. My dog's over here whining. Hello. So, yeah, that wiggles a little too easily. So I'm going to take this apart, see what we can do, and fix that jack. I'm looking at it, and it looks like it's usually an internal thing, not that big of a deal. But it looks like it takes a Torx bit, so I'm going to have to figure out the size of that. And I'm going to take a stab at it because I did this on another one of mine. Let's see about a 4. Wow, first try. So I don't know how much of this I need to take apart, if I'm being honest with you. But I'm going to just go ahead and play it safe and take apart all of these screws. So I'll fast forward through this and we'll come back when I'm done. Okay, that's the pedal sensor right there, so I'm going to unhook that. Leave that as normal. Alright, so this is the board. This looks very similar to the Headrush, the larger version that I have. I'm going to probably have to take the nut off. Let's see, let's do this first. Let's take the shield off on the back. All right. There's a screw here. And we are free. Super delicate right here. Look at these ribbon cables. Right. And that's the switchboard, like the controller and the screen. So just be real gentle. And then right here, all right, I'm going to try to zoom in so you can see what's going on here. So right here, there's a little tab that I need to lift up with my spudger here. Boom. And then gently unseat the ribbon cable. There's one more. And it looks like right there. Just that guy. Awesome. The I/O board is out. I'm going to do some cleaning, but I'm going to set this aside as well. So now we have our I/O board, and looks nice and clean. And I'm going to leave this cable attached. This is the heat sink for the processor here. There's a recovery and a reset button. That's kind of cool. Wonder what that would be for. But yeah, you see the switch here. I don't have anything I could put on that, unfortunately. But it is really gunked up as a result of being exposed, if you can see. As a result of being exposed to the elements. It's really gunked up. Let's see if I can take this shield off here. It's weird. It's like the screw doesn't want to come out. Oh, it had a locking nut on the other side. That's why. And yeah, Cool, that just comes off. All right, so now I can look at the underside. Yep, that's the chip and everything. Cool. All right, so this is our power guy right here. And what I'm going to do is I'll go ahead and start up my solder stuff. It's not an issue with the solder points. You can see that they're in really good shape. It's a physical jack issue. And I'm wondering if I can bend this up. What happens? Do I need to take it off? Not sure. But while I wait for my soldering iron to heat up, I will do some minor cleaning around the important stuff here. Just because, again, that's been exposed to the elements. Could do with a good little scrub. And brush. And I wonder if I can order a replacement button. The problem is he needs it for a show tonight, so I don't know that there'll be much that I can really replace on here. But while I wait, let me do a quick Google. See. There was a company that I bought some Headrush parts from, but it was the switches. Can actually buy the whole PCB for $240 if you wanted, but you don't need all that. All right. So good practice. I know this is probably newer solder, so I don't really have to mix some in, but I'm going to. Okay. Now I've done that, I'm just going to use my handy dandy desoldering tool. Right. Probably needs just a little bit more. Desoldering is always tricky. Especially when it comes to power jacks. So close. I could try to just heat this thing out. I think that's what I'll try to do, for better or for worse. Actually, move some of this stuff out of the way. So I'm going to speed through this section, but basically what you're seeing me attempt to do is use my heat gun to try to just melt this out and let it fall using gravity or a light tap. And I wasn't very successful, and I was getting pretty frustrated because if you put that much heat on there, and there, look, my head's in the way, you can't even see. If you put too much heat on it, it can melt the plastic. And I eventually got it off, but I think I ripped a little bit of the pad on the inside out. Thankfully, it didn't break the board, but I probably could have done just as well by working the soldering iron back and forth. That was a hassle, but we got it out. All right, now this is molded, so I'm not really going to be able to get into it, but I might be able to tweak it a little bit. But the important thing is, got it out. So let me clean up some things here. Just going to clean up these pads, remove the residue. Because I got a bunch of flux everywhere. Now that I got all that, move some of this crap out of the way. And I'm just going to undo cool. Basically all that does is just set me up for success when I go to put this back in. Right, so board off to the side. I'm actually going to call my local store and see if they have any of these. But before I do that, I wonder if I can get a really fine tip in here and try to raise that up. Because it's almost like this has been worn out down here. And that's why it's, yeah, that's 100% why. So this jack is just worn out right here, the plastic. Let me call my local store and see if I have something. I'm back from the store, and they had exactly what I needed. So I bought a couple of them, but they have these little barrel jacks, and I'll actually show you here why the other one wasn't working. So here's something interesting to point out. I did buy a handful of these barrel power jacks from my local Radio Shack, and I did check it at the store and the plug fit. And you might notice in this video, I'm going to show you the old one and how it's warped, and then I show you the new one. Well, I had got this one mixed up, and it was actually the wrong pin. So there's a positive polarity and a negative polarity, and you can use an adapter to go between them. But you'll see how I put one in, and I didn't check the jack. So just always measure twice and cut or solder once. So I've got my new jack. Pop that guy in. Gosh, that's a perfect fit. I love that.
You sure about that? You sure about that?
And I could bend this to probably tack it in place, but I think I'll just hold it. It should be fine. Cool. So let me see if I can zoom in. Just, well, it's about as much as I can zoom. So that's what you're going to get. And I did test this at the store. so I know that it was working. It's actually a Radio Shack, if you'd believe it. Radio Shacks are still in existence, and I'm going to make sure this has got a real good connection. Cool. All right. That's honestly the repair itself. So that's not hard. But before I put this back together, are some things I want to do concerning the other board. It's kind of dirty, so really I just want to do some general cleaning, some maintenance here. I'll be skipping through this since it's just me cleaning, using some contact cleaner spray and reassembling the unit. I will point out that while this is being sped up, I actually noticed that I had accidentally ripped off one of the header pins for one of the cable plugs. I don't know when I did that. Maybe you can catch it in the video and timestamp it in the comments, but at some point I'd accidentally done that. The good news is I didn't rip off any of the solder pads, so I simply just needed to tack it back in. Just being very careful. I might have melted just a tiny bit of plastic off of the header, but it's not a big deal. You'll actually see it right here is where I discover, because there was a cable that wasn't going somewhere. And as a result, I had to fix the entire thing, pull it out, and do that. So I'll go ahead and speed through the rest of this, and we'll get to the first test where, if you were paying attention earlier on in the video, you'll notice that I messed up the power jack. I don't know when my camera stopped, but look, this is a positive. I soldered the positive one in. I've got to do all this over again. All right, give me a moment. Hey, it's me again while I'm taking this apart and then putting it back together with the correct pin in. I had said that I soldered the positive one in and I meant to solder the negative one in. I'm not entirely sure that terminology is correct. At the very least, I know the inner pin diameter was larger. So I'm pretty certain I needed a 2.1 millimeter inner pin, and I had soldered in a 2.5 millimeter inner pin. That's why it was thick and the power cable wasn't fitting. I'm not sure if the polarity was different, but here we go. Back to the video. Let's hope that I'm rightfully confident this time. Beautiful. Love it. And as far as the pedal goes, let's see. I don't know if I can measure it. It's really snug. It's actually cool. But I know it works. So all in all, successful fix. Of course, it took me another try, but yeah. Awesome. Power jack works. And basically all that's left is to reassemble the knobs and the ports. There's not really anything interesting as far as the video goes for that. I'm just putting screws back in and putting these washers back on. So, you know, if you're trying to do something similar to this, there's really not much technicality involved. These are plastic, though. I will say be very careful with them. Just hand tighten and give them a really good snug. I'm not going to put a pair of pliers on this just because I've cracked them before and I learned my lesson. The push to enter, there's a little slot. You just drop that guy on there. Actually, that might be the main. Let me see which knob's which. No, this would be your main. And then the push to enter knob. It's off center. I don't like that. Did I do that? Yeah. Maybe it was like that before. Yeah, it looks like it was like that before, so I'm just going to leave it because functionally it still works right now. And the important thing is it's got power. All right, so I'm going to put these screws back in and I'm going to call this a day. Thanks for watching.